So I'm going to ask you this. I remember, of course, when you first told me. I remember where I was anyway.
Right. Oh, right. Okay.
But yeah, just talk about how did you find out?
Well, it started with me being. I was on holiday in Barbados. I was in Barbados, and I got lockdown came, 2020.
Yep.
And it went on and on and on. Airports closed and all that sort of thing. So okay. So on early 2021, I visited a local doctor.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with prostate. Okay. It just my wrist was hurting me. That's why I see the doctor.
Yeah.
And while I was there, she said, we were just chatting, because I think she trained in the UK.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Okay. So we chatted, and she said, "Oh, okay." And I said, "Oh, UK." I said, "Yeah." She said, "I said, well, I've been here since the lockdown." And and then she said, "Have you had your yearly medical?
Which you normally have that here.
Yeah, yes, right. I normally do that in the UK." She said, "Do you have?" So I said, "Well, no, because I've been here." And she said, "Would you like me to do one?" And I said, "Yeah, all right, yeah, fair enough." So she did it. We had a blood test, and it included a prostate examination.
Right.
So she did a physical examination, prostate physical, and
what, the digital?
no, where they feel for the prostate.
Yeah.
And feel exactly what it feels like and all.
I didn't know you had that. So you had what they call
Is that what it's called?
digital, as in digits. Your finger.
Finger.
Not a machine.
Oh, what is it?
No, but it's funny you say that. When I saw it with this, and I was like, oh, what? There's some sort of digital exam now. Like, how does that work? And I was like, what, analog digital? No, oh no, digital. Right.
Oh, is that what it means?
Yeah.
So,
But you had that.
That's what
you
I had.
had physical.
Yeah, I had that there.
Yeah.
I had that before because I've been having prostate chest before. Just as a sidebar, the local GPs here you don't get that. You don't get the digital thing. Usually they might do a PSA test.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah, but they don't usually give you, like every year, my local GP, I've never done it then.
Yeah.
Let me put it that way. That was not the first time I've had it, but I've never done it. So when the results came back, she said, well, the digital test was okay, everything was fine. However, your PSA has elevated. It's a bit higher than. And she said, but for your age, what it is for your age, we probably won't do anything.
Yeah.
But seeing that I don't know you, I think maybe, and if you're going to be here for a little while longer, maybe get a urologist, a specialist to have a look.
Right.
Speak to. So that's what happened. So she introduced me to this specialist. Excuse me.
This is all in Barbados.
All in Barbados.
Yeah. Okay.
So I went to see the urologist, and he said, "Yeah, the age group is a little bit. It wasn't over the board, I suppose. That's why.
So it's elevated.
Not
crazy high.
Yeah. So he said, look, go away for a couple of months. You do a blood test, and when you come back, if it's risen, then we have to think. We have to do something else. If it isn't, I'll write you off." So I said, okay. So anyway, when I had the blood test, when I came back, they had gone up.
Okay.
Another digit sort of thing, another point or whatever. So he said, right, we need to do something. So he said, so we got two choices. You've got an MRI scan or a biopsy.
Yeah.
So I said, so what was biopsy work? He said, well, you have to go in. I said, oh, the MRI, because I don't like pain. So the MRI scan didn't work. And he said, but that would be easier, providing, you got to pay for it, that would be easier. So I said, well, pay for it, depending on how she is, probably the problem, but what can I do? But when I spoke to you and Rolly and your mum, the consensus was, look, if you're going to do the biopsy or MRI scan, you might as well do the biopsy and finish.
Yeah, because the feeling was that even if you had the MRI, you'd probably end up getting a biopsy anyway.
Yes, but
the biopsy is always the way to definitely find out what's happening.
Yes.
If anything's happening.
But that's how he put it to me too.
Yeah.
He said, depending on what the MRI says, we may still have to do the biopsy. So I went along with him. He said, did the biopsy, went back to see him after, and he said, the bad news is the cancer cells in your prostate.
And that was
the beginning. Me and your mum were sitting in the chairs listening to this. So she's like, okay, don't worry about it. So I said, well, what can we do? Excuse me. At that point, he then said, well, this is in Barbados, and he said, well, you're 75, the average age of living man is 78. I mean, how long, and he did say, how long do you intend to live?
One question. As long as possible, please.
So I said that. I said, well, well, what do you mean? I said, as long as I want to, as long as it's 200 or something anyway. And then he said, well, look, there's not all bad news because the cancer is still in the prostate and we can deal with that. And the options are removing the prostate, which I would not recommend because of your age. You can have it done though if you want to. Radiotherapy, or what a lot of people do at your age is what they call it, active surveillance.
The old wait and see.
Yes.
Yeah, which and when you rang me and said that, I was just like, that sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, but apparently, depending on your age, they do that. They do. A lot of people do that. It's in all the books as well. Since after they talk about. So he said, well, every 3 months you can come and see me, and I can do PSA, and maybe at the end of the year we do another biopsy.
But that is one of the things, and that's one of the issues with men's views on prostate cancer. Is this kind of message that's out there that most men die with prostate cancer, not of it. So there's this sort of feeling that just leave it, it's fine. We can monitor it. And when you told me, that doesn't sound like a good treatment plan. So we decided you came back.
Yes, because just going back to that, he did tell me that as well. He told me I'm more likely to die of something else rather than prostate cancer.
Yeah. So we came back.
We came back, and then we went to see the specialist that you recommended, and he suggested an MRI scan.
Yeah, so they did the scan. So basically, I think the key thing was they confirmed the diagnosis. When we came here.
Yes,
you came here, got the diagnosis confirmed.
Right, yeah.
But then got into the treatment plan.
Yes, they got in the treatment plan, but they decided that the MRI scan would be the option. You have to do an MRI scan to let's see what it is really. Okay. Also, they asked me to send for the bits.
Yeah, the bits. So they got all that.
Got all that.
Got all that done. And then, from memory, the first treatment he went on was the hormone treatment.
Yes.
Which was
as soon as I saw the oncologist, he said, no, the urologist. Yeah. He said, right, put you straight on hormones. Started off with some tablets. Yeah. For like 3 weeks or something. And then the injections. And the injections, I was told, he said, you have to be on these injections for 2 years.
Right. And these are the injections that effectively stop.
The hormone injections are supposed to stop testosterone and the hormones from growing, getting a bit more. There's a hormone blocker, I think that's what it is.
And did it have really any side effects?
No, that was the thing. No side effects at all. Yeah. Because not getting up over. Maybe the odd time I get up a couple of times at night, and that's what they were asking. What the side effects were and all that. But there weren't any at the time. Yeah. So
you did that, and then I guess it was a case of waiting for that. You go through that treatment period, right? And then it was into the radiotherapy.
Yeah. And then the radiotherapy started, which was just to go back to hormone treatment. You had I think there are 3 choices: a month, one every month, 3 monthly, or 6 monthly. But the nurse had recommended they do the 3 monthly one. So did the local GP, because the 3 monthly one meant you had less pinholes in your body.
Right, this is injection. Yeah.
Injection if you're going every month, The 6 month one, you would only need 4 of those. Yeah, over 2 year period. But you get that in your body, and apparently because it goes into the muscle, they're very painful. The injection compared to in the stomach. Yeah. The one in the stomach, you just hold.
So you chicken out.
Well, I chickened out on the advice from the nurse. She said, she says, anyone that I know that had a 6 month one, it seems the easy way out, but they are painful. I said, 3 month one, so that's what I know. So then I went to do the radiotherapy. The radiotherapy, you have to do a CT scan.
Yeah, so you do the CT scan, and then, so where they're pinpointing, they pinpoint
exactly where.
Because obviously once they figured out, the key for you was a relatively early diagnosis.
Yes.
Because the prostate, the cancer
cells
was in the prostate.
Yes.
Which, I mean, it's a complete, and that's the key with waiting, isn't it? Because if you wait and the cells go out of the prostate,
right, then different thing. Yeah, then you're
different treatment, different outcomes. Yeah. So but it was still in the prostate, which is good. And then the radiotherapy, because we didn't know, did we? Because it's kind of like you almost think that radiotherapy and chemo are the same things. And oh, which one's which? Or how bad is it going to be? You're going to be sick.
Yeah.
But actually, it was
Yeah,
fine,
it
wasn't
wasn't. Yeah.
It's just like an X-ray, like a really strong, targeted X-ray.
Yes, and that's what the oncologist. She was quite good. She just said. She actually said there won't be any after effects until the end of my treatment. See, and she said, 5 minutes, 2 minutes on the bench, and you go. And that's how it worked. It was easy in that form. But she did. I got a bit confused when I saw her because I just assumed that she would be doing it. But all she did was, after the CT scan, she did tell me that she has to then sit down and do like a diagram of where they have to pinpoint. So the technicians then have to know exactly where the machine has to be and where to aim it. And every time you lie down, they line you up, shift you around a little bit, and then they do numbers, like they say 5.6 on the left and 4 on the right, and then away you go.
So it's painless. It's just like, 5 minutes?
5 minutes, like it was
each session was like 5 minutes.
5 minutes, yes.
And how many sessions do you have to do?
Well, I have to do
5 days a week.
So by 20, wouldn't it be 4 or 5 so 20 sessions.
So five a week for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Sessions. And obviously now that's done.
Yeah, so that was done, and then the after effects were, from my point of view, were control of bowel movement and urine. Okay, but it wasn't overly bad, but it was just that the body didn't feel, it wasn't sure what it wanted to do.
Yeah.
So whenever I went to the bathroom, I would have to sit on the toilet.
And but that didn't last very long, did it?
No. That was like it was control of the urine was probably the more major thing, because what happened was you wanted to go more often, so I had to make sure that I knew when I was on the train going to the treatment
before,
go before, and I knew where the toilets were on the train station, the platforms, and that sort of thing. But I didn't have any major issues apart from that. They weren't major, really, to be honest. It's just you had to plan your journey.
And then what's the next stage? So now we've done radiotherapy.
Right.
What happens next?
Right. So now, after halfway through the radiotherapy, you get what they call telephone review.
Yeah.
I had the first telephone review halfway. How are you getting on with it? Fine, everything's fine. Like, okay, that's good news. Right? And then I had one since it's finished. Right. And from now on, it is just telephone reviews, even with the oncologist. I have one coming up on the 18th with the doctor, oncologist, and then from then on, it's just the technicians who will be ringing me over time. I have one on the 18th of this month, and the next one is in January.
But have you had another scan to see if it works?
No.
So what do they do?
Right. Now, I asked the last review, I asked the technician lady, she said, "Oh, I'll be ringing you." I said, "Yeah." But I said, from my experience, when you hear people talk about cancer, people say, they get a note, or the doctor says, "Oh, you're cancer-free now."
Yeah.
I says, "How does that happen with me?" And she says, "But that doesn't happen with you. The only measurement we have is the PSA results. So as long as the PSA results stay low, then they assume that."
And so how often have they suggested you test it?
Well, like I said, they haven't suggested it yet, but what they would be telling me, they would be ringing me and saying, next review is on such a thing, and have your blood tests 2 or 3 weeks before, so that we got the results.
Right, okay.
So my next
So you do a PSA test before each review? Oh, I see, right.
Yes. So you have to do it like 2 or 3 weeks before the review, so they get the results back.
Yeah.
So when they ring me, they know exactly what the results are, and then they can say, well, yeah, this is going well, or we need to do something else. But it's not sort of a clear thing to say, well, right, you're free today.
But for me, I think what's quite interesting is you didn't have any symptoms, really.
No.
Even thinking back retrospectively, do you think you had any symptoms?
No.
No. So no symptoms. The PSA was elevated, but not really high.
Yeah.
It could have quite easily have just gone undetected.
Yes, because the blood test that I had before the biopsy, the PSA had gone down to 6.
Which is more normal.
Yeah, it went back on this, because I think at my age, it's 5 and below now, But it gone from 8 to 6. But he still did the biopsy. And still proved that it was cancer cells there.
So the key is just
be
vigilant, talk to the doctor, test it, whatever tests are available, whether it's a digital test or whether it's PSA, and be mindful that, I guess, that any one of those things isn't necessarily a kind of a good indication or bad indication. In that, a low PSA doesn't necessarily mean you haven't.
No, that's
wrong. So you've got to think about all these things in conjunction with each other. So think about the symptoms.
Yes.
So I did the risk checker, actually.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's really simple. It's just an online thing you go through. It just it tells you what your risk is, and that helps you, talk to the doctor. Obviously, since I was aware of the risk anyway.
Yes, right.
And then obviously I was aware of the heightened risk because you were diagnosed.
Right.
Something I've had since you've been diagnosed. I've had 2 PSA tests and a digital.
So how did you feel when I told you that?
Yeah, I mean it was hard. I mean it was difficult. I mean because you don't know, do you? You just hear cancer. I mean, you don't even prostate cancer. You just hear cancer really. You're like, oh my God, and then you start talking to people, or I talk to friends who are doctors, and then you start realizing, okay, well look, actually, it's not the worst type of cancer to get, but it depends how early it is.
Yeah.
So then it became very obvious that we had to figure out quite quickly.
That's where
how advanced it was, and had it been confined to the prostate. But yeah, it was obviously it's tough for everybody, and everybody's thinking, and then it makes you reflect on you, on me, the girls.
everybody.
Yeah, so I was like, right, I've got to go get tested. And I kind of basically forced my doctor to give me the digital exam.
Yeah,
it was a bit kind of, he didn't really want to do it. Yeah. And I was like, no, just can you do it, please?
Yeah. I mean,
as well as the PSA. So I've had the PSAs and that.
Right.
And I'm aware of the symptoms, and I've done the.
Yes.
And with all of that information, all of that gives me a kind of, okay, you're fine.
Yeah.
I think I'm all
right.
But I would do all that again this time next year.
Yes.
And make sure, again, that I'm looking at everything, and monitoring. I think that's the message, isn't it?
That is the message. There's 2 things in the message. One is the age business that the local, GPs or doctors or whatever have, because they do work the same on age. Mm-hmm. And if you're a certain age, as it might be, and then they work on family.
Yeah.
One thing I've never said, I don't think I ever told you, but my dad, because when they asked me if, they always used to say, if you have a history of it in your family, or something. Whenever I go to the doctor and ask for PSA. Yeah. So for some reason, I decided to do that years ago, sometime reach 50, decided to do that. My first GP that I asked, because I hadn't been to the doctors really, twice in all after years, and he said, "Oh, why did you say that?" I said, "Well, I keep hearing it on the news and things. None of my friends have it, but I just keep hearing it on the news." And he said, "Yeah, but does your family have it?" I said, "Well, I don't think my brother has, and I don't think my dad had either." And he said, "Okay." He says, "Have you got symptoms? Is this happening? Are you getting up?" And I said, "No." "Have you got trouble doing this?" "No." "Doing this?" "No." He said, "Well, there's no point, is there?" So he said, "PSA." I said, "But do they do a PSA test?" He said, "Yeah, but you can have." He said, "You can have a low PSA reading and have it. You can have a high PSA reading and don't have it." So it's a hit and miss. So no point in doing it if you. And that was all. Yeah, that's what he told me.
I mean, he's right, but the issue is that you should get it,
right?
And think about all the other things like symptoms, risk, and if any of those things you're concerned about.
Because we never talked about it. Our friends and things. It's only in the last 5 years. What
was interesting is when you said to me that you started talking to all your friends back in Robert, how many of them said, "Oh yeah, I had that."
Yeah.
But they never said it to you.
No, I have a friend in Canada who had it. And we used to communicate, not regularly, but he's had prostate cancer, he had his removed and all sorts of stuff.
But never told you.
But never. I think I knew he had it, but I think it's with men. I think it's one of those things where even when you know somebody who has it, you just
don't talk about it.
Yeah, and you just don't think you will get it. You know what I mean? It's not. You don't go. Not like you did. When you heard about me, you went, "Whoa, this is serious. I need to go get checked." Now, none of my friends have done. Even when I tell them, they go, "Oh, right, fair enough."
But like you tell me, so someone's been checked, and you're like, yeah. and then you come back to me and you'll say to me, "Oh, I met Winston this person. Has he been checked?
Yeah.
Has he had a test?
Yes.
Has he Yeah. But funny enough, why would Carl?
With Carl, yeah. Because he never, he just rang me and said, "Oh, I've got to go, I've got to have a biopsy."
Yeah.
And the strangest thing was, because Carl said to me, "Well, was he having a biopsy?" And I said, "No, he didn't tell me." And I never asked him. But he just told me what the biopsy was like. But even then, like I'm saying, even when people have to have it, he didn't come forward with the information. He didn't say, "Look, Peter, I just went to the doctors, and my prostate thing's gone out and thing, and I think I have to have a biopsy. What was it like?" He just said, "What was it? You had a biopsy, yeah. What was it like? I may have to have one." All right. I said, well, it's all right. You know, a little bit painful, but it's all right. But apparently, it's not as painful here as it was with what I had.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. I think that men that he, you know. So when I spoke to him again before I asked him. I said, why are you having a boxy anyway? He said, I think the PSA was a bit high, and he didn't even tell me the scope what it was. There, you know what I mean? It was like
not talk about it.
Not talk
That's
about
the thing.
it.
Is men don't talk about it. They don't talk to each other. As you found out, you found out like 3 or 4 of your friends had gone through this, never said it, never mentioned it to you, and luckily for Carl, it sounds like he's got a diagnosis, but it sounds like it's early as well.
It's early, yeah. His is early as well, because he did a bone scan, and he rang me a couple of days ago. I rang him to see how it was, and he rang and said it was clear.
Yeah,
the scan's clear. So that's good news. So he just probably has to decide whether he's going to be do active surveillance or he's going to have the radiotherapy. Basically, he may even have it removed.
Basically, you said the ease. You might as well just have them.
Yeah, because if you have it removed, that's what the first specialist you took me to had said. Even if I remove it, I must still have to do radiotherapy. Because when you remove it, you can't be sure that you've taken everything that is necessary. Yeah. So you might as well just do radiotherapy and finish.
You haven't done it, yeah.
Especially if it's still in the prostate, you might just do radiotherapy, but leave the prostate where it is.
That's the thing, that talking about it, you'd like to think that talking about it made Carl go to the doctor, and look at it, and hopefully that. But that's the message, isn't it? It's the message to everybody. It's to kind of, and I'm saying it to my friends now. At my age, because I'm 50 this year, and I'm saying, have you been tested? Have you been tested?
But getting to this, the rotary, that was. How did it happen anyway? How did that?
The watch.
Yeah.
Well, no, it was really interesting because I had some rotary watches anyway.
Oh, I see.
That I could wear it, and then they contacted me. So just really weird, and said, "Oh, we've got this new watch coming out. Would you like?" Well, I said, "Yeah, that'd be great." And they sent it to me, and it was obviously the 1 in 8 watch in support of prostate cancer, and it was. I think it was the same month you got.
Yeah.
Found out. So I wrote back to Zoe saying, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing! Really, thank you so much." Funny enough, my dad was just been diagnosed with prostate cancer. It's early, It's just really, really, really sort of, don't want to use the word lucky, but I guess it's one of them. And I said, anything I could do, to help. And obviously, Walton was wearing the watch, and then we've been talking, and then they asked if I would work with the team to help design this watch, which is the 1 in 4 watch, which is to raise awareness for prostate cancer. That 1 in 4 men of Afro-Caribbean background or heritage will at some point be diagnosed with prostate cancer. So I was like, of course I will. Yeah, it's great. It was good fun actually. I love the watch.
The funny thing is that I never knew about the numbers.
No, I didn't.
No one has ever mentioned them numbers at all.
I didn't know.
Even, I think when I went to saw the urologist, he talked about, about some numbers, but I don't think he laid it out in that way.
No, he didn't, and I didn't know about it until, which I found strange. I hadn't heard about it really until I started working with Rotary Prostate Cancer UK. I didn't know that was, and I didn't know that it was. You're twice as likely to
It's different, for different.
If you're, and actually, it's different. Quite a few. The risk profile moves and is different. So that was really strange that I didn't know, and then I started asking questions, and it was really strange that nobody knew why either. Right. So nobody's not entirely sure.
Do they know why now?
No, they don't. Not they, and that's the thing, because prostate cancer is treatable if it's caught early. Yeah. Yes, I didn't know about the 1 in 4 thing, or even 1 in 8, until I started working with prostate cancer and rotary watches. Right. And it surprised me that those sort of numbers, but it also surprised me that no one really knows why.
Yeah, I think because I went onto the internet, obviously, and one of the things I realised is that Asian men don't get it. It's like 1 in 12 or something.
Yeah.
Right? And Carol's, your mom's sister in Trinidad, she ran and said, look, that sort of difference in ratio is here in Trinidad, where they have a pretty high population of Indians. And she says it appears that it all has to do with my diet, that they use this, what called choker?
choker, which is like a kind of
tomatoes.
tomato relish base.
Yes.
It's like a salsa, isn't it?
Yeah. But when I read the thing about prostate cancer, like what can you eat to help prostate cancer or healthy prostates, they suggest that cooked tomatoes is very good and keeps. But then it put the two together and realized, that's what the Indians eat because they eat everything has tomatoes in it, and also people from Italy, there's low too because of and the other thing was this other nation where all the nations where they drink green tea. The rate of cancer is a lot less there too, prostate cancer. And so those two things, with the green tea and the tomatoes, the cooked tomatoes, but they're better if they're cooked, or whatever they give off when they're cooked, better for you. But I read that and I thought, I started to do that before I had the biopsy. And when I got the test of the biopsy and it had gone down to 6, I thought, oh, this thing actually works. I wasn't sure if it was that or not, but I thought, ooh,
it's tricky. But what's interesting, and that's why it's interesting working with Rotary Watchers and Prostate Cancer UK, is that's one of the things that everybody's working towards is finding out a screening system like they have for breast cancer, encouraging men to talk to each other, to talk to their doctors. I mean, I was at one event and someone said he was a doctor. He said, men die because they don't go to the doctor.
Yes.
I mean, they don't talk. They don't go to the doctor. That's why more men die of disease because they don't go to the doctor. They don't talk to each other. So that's one of the things about communication, talking to each other. I think also hearing stories like yours is interesting because it's quite clear that there is absolutely no downside in getting tested or being aware.
The only downside is you don't want to get bad news, I suppose.
but that's just bad news. It doesn't mean bad things have happened. The point is, the longer you leave it, the more likely it is that the cancer's left the prostate, and then all of a sudden it becomes it's really different. And it's. I was in a meeting the other day with a friend, and one of the guys was just I said, "How's your week been?" He said, "It's pretty bad, really." My father-in-law died from prostate cancer. But it was because I said that's really sad. He said, he wasn't that old. He was 65, so he was not particularly old.
No, not 65.
No, not 65.
I don't feel all at 75.
Well, exactly. So he got to 65, and but what happened was he hadn't been aware or hadn't understood the symptoms and hadn't got it checked out. And retrospectively, I just said, do you think he had symptoms? We realised that he'd been having symptoms for a while, but by the time he got it dealt with, unfortunately, so he actually died of lung cancer, but the prostate cancer had spread into his lungs, and that's what actually, that's what he died from. And it's just sad because you sort of think, well, is it possible that he would have been okay if he had sort of realised early enough and they'd caught the cancer before it left the prostate?
I would imagine so.
And I think that's the message. I mean, that is the message about about this whole thing. I don't want to get bad news. The news is irrelevant because it's happening or it's not happening. There is no downside in finding out. If you find it early enough, actually, like you,
there's a good chance of.
It's been pretty straightforward.
Because I think, to be fair, I mean that the urologist has said that to me. That said, look, what you have, we can cure you of it. We honestly, I'm almost sure we can cure you. We won't treat you. We're not treating you for cancer, prostate cancer. We can cure you of prostate cancer. So I'm hoping that's what's happened. But that's the feeling. Once you get it at a certain stage, or before a certain stage, you can definitely deal with it in a curing way rather than in a treatment, long-term treatment way.
It is. I think that's a really important message, and that's the one
we need
that we've all been working to get to people because you can't. It's just sad to think that people, that people could have
been here still.
Potentially could still be here, and all the pain and anguish that
causes. But I don't know how I don't know. I mean, I do my own bit, and think like, it's. I don't know. It's the other thing. I think the doctors still need to be a bit more proactive.
I think so. I mean, I shouldn't have had to
force. No, you shouldn't really have to.
I say force. I mean, I didn't. The NHS is a GP. The NHS, they're under pressure. He's a great doctor. When I say force, it wasn't like a wicked, refused to leave the room, but tied myself to the desk or something and refused to leave. But I think it was a case of me. It would have been very easy for me to have gone, all right then, I'll do it. Because there were like 2 or 3 points in the conversation where if I didn't push back, the conversation would have ended with me saying, no, you'd probably be all right. And I was like, no, you do it. And even when we went to do the test, the actual test, I went in, and he still gave me an out, which I almost took, because obviously you're kind of thinking, well, I don't really want it. And I said, no, like, I know we should do it, we should definitely do it, Because he was kind of saying, have you got any symptoms? I was like, no. Have you got a raised PSA? No. He's got my PSA tests. And he's looking at it, and he's saying, well, your PSA's okay. So do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah. And I think that should, that should change, because, as you said, the PSA isn't necessarily the kind of
but it's what we have.
It is, and it serves a purpose. But the point I'm making is that just because your PSA is normal doesn't necessarily mean you don't have it. So we may need to be aware of that as well, so that they're vigilant.
But it's the physical, the digital test.
The digital test
is one that is is one that's been joked about from a man's point of view. Because they say, if you talk to anyone, they say, what's he going to do? What's he going to put the digital? Nobody wants to do it.
Nobody wants it. No, they don't. And it's like, it's not something, but again, it was over in the seconds.
Yeah, but
I was in the room when you had your first.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Obviously, behind a curtain.
Yeah.
But and it was a bit like, off you go. Be gentle with it. But that's the amount, that sort of thing.
Yeah, but it's a male thing.
I was shocked.
Yeah, it nothing to it. Yeah, there's nothing to it.
Really. And also, that he was able to say, from the exam, I confirm the prognosis or the diagnosis from the doctor of Barbados, and yes, there is something there, but it feels like it's still maintained in the process. So it's obviously in the right hands, the right fingers. It is actually quite a test, quite a good way of confirming and figuring out, which is why it's important. So when I went to get mine done, again, it was over in seconds.
There's nothing to it, but it is just a natural thing. It's people laugh at you when you say it.
Even now I'm laughing at you.
Listen, did you enjoy?
I'm still laughing at you because we were in the room. But then, but it was quick, and I went to it, and he was like, it's fine.
Nothing to it.
It's fine, and I think it's. I think that needs to change.
That needs to change. Yeah.
So the way that the way that doctors talk about it
needs to change so that you're right, so that men, so we you don't have a stigma with it and all that. Not stigma, but it's
not a stigma. But you just like you pretty much do anything not to have it.
Yes.
And you would take any bit of news not to have it. Oh, well, you don't look like you've got it. Oh, I have it.
Yes.
Because you don't want to. But the key is no. Just if they feel there's a reason, you should get it done. You should have that because it's important.
So what about the obviously there's going to be funding to this thing.
Yeah. So I think hopefully what in terms of what Prostate Cancer UK are doing is about they have different strands of what they're trying to do. So the first is awareness, to make men aware of the risk, the symptoms, and what they should be doing about those within the realms of what we have exist at the moment. So PSA tests, digital exams, understanding of symptoms, and then there's the research side about trying to work in the background with medical research to figure out how we could implement a screening system in the UK, similar to breast cancer. But they need a test, a way of doing that, and I think that's a big part of the research is about that. So the walk that we went on, the March for Men, the bike rides, the runs, all this stuff they do, watch, that's all about raising funds for them to be able to do that work.
And also the exposure, the more companies are involved, I suppose, the more you get. The reason I'm saying it is because I know that obviously places like Barbados and those parts of the world can be 10 years behind the UK. Mm-hmm. So the faster, the quicker it happens here, and the more wider it becomes, then the quicker things improve in those parts of the world.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the aim, is to get it to a point. The more men get tested, the more men will
talk about it.
Well, they talk about it, the more men will, if they've got it, will be diagnosed with it.
Right.
And in theory, the more, and some of them, sadly, maybe too late, but some of them, it may be okay. It may be caught in time. So those sort of things are really important. And that makes makes a real difference. So that's what Prostate Cancer UK do, what Reggie watches, what we're doing with the 184 and with the 188 watch, and what videos like this, people just talking about it, just normalising it.
Trying to talk.